Lisa Stone pulls her legs closer under table 7 in the cafeteria, counting 127 heartbeats as Blake Hartwell, Jake Thornfield, and Reed Ashford approach in perfect triangle formation. Blake leads from the front, while the other two spread to her flanks like wolves cornering prey. She notices Blake walks with his feet shoulder-width apart, a sign of manufactured confidence that her father taught her to recognize. Jake keeps snapping his fingers in a nervous rhythm, betraying anxiety beneath his intimidating 6'4" frame, while Reed checks his phone 3 times in 20 seconds, desperate for digital validation. What they don't know is that Lisa has been studying them for exactly 3 weeks. She knows Blake's left ankle still bothers him from last season's football injury, that Jake flinches whenever someone approaches from his blind spot, and that Reed's bravado crumbles the moment his social media metrics dip. In 47 minutes, the FBI will be involved in ways none of them can imagine. But right now, all they see is a quiet girl who made the fatal mistake of ignoring the wrong people. "Hit like if quiet people surprise you the most," she whispers to herself, remembering something her father once said about underestimation being the greatest weapon of all. "I'm building a community of people who understand that real strength comes from within and never underestimate others. If you also believe in the hidden power of human potential, hit like so we can support stories about quiet courage together. Subscribe for more stories about people who never give up. And thank you to those supporting the channel. If you believe in spreading positive energy, the thanks button helps me share more inspiring stories. Because what Lisa is about to do will completely change her life." Lisa Stone has developed habits that most 17-year-olds would find strange. She always checks emergency exits before choosing her seat, positions herself with a clear view of the entire cafeteria, and mentally counts the number of people within a 15-foot radius. To her classmates at Westfield Preparatory Academy, she appears to be just another average student pulling B+ grades who avoids extracurricular activities. The truth hidden beneath this carefully constructed facade runs much deeper than anyone suspects. For 12 years, Colonel Ben Stone has trained his daughter in Krav Maga and tactical awareness. What began as father-daughter bonding time at Fort Campbell has evolved into something far more sophisticated. Lisa possesses the ability to memorize behavioral patterns of everyone around her within 3 weeks of observation. She knows which students always choose the same lunch table, who checks their reflection in windows while walking, and exactly how each person reacts when stressed or threatened. The contrast between her current environment and her upbringing couldn't be more stark. Westfield Prep costs $40,000 per year and caters to children of politicians, business executives, and old money families, while Lisa grew up on a military base where discipline and preparation meant the difference between life and death. Her father taught her that combat skills should remain invisible until absolutely necessary. Violence represents the last resort, but when that moment arrives, decisive action becomes essential. She watches Blake Hartwell laugh with his friends near the popular tables by the windows, noting how he unconsciously touches his left ankle when he thinks nobody is looking. Jake Thornfield dominates conversations through physical presence alone, but his eyes constantly dart toward potential threats, while Reed Ashford photographs his lunch for social media before taking a single bite. Most students see the school's golden boys. Lisa sees tactical information that might prove useful someday. Her phone buzzes with a text from Kate Fletcher, her only real friend at Westfield. "Study group tonight at 7? Mom's making chocolate chip cookies." Lisa smiles slightly. Kate represents everything normal about teenage life that Lisa sometimes envies. Worries about pop quizzes rather than threat assessments, dreams about prom dates instead of exit strategies. The Westfield Pack has ruled this school with absolute authority for 3 years running. Blake Hartwell serves as their intimidation specialist, standing 6'2" with quarterback shoulders, and the confidence that comes from never experiencing real consequences. His father chairs the school board, his mother leads the parent association, and his family's donations built the new gymnasium. When Blake speaks, administrators listen with the reverence reserved for major donors. Jake Thornfield brings the muscle to their operation. At 6'4" and 230 pounds, he uses his varsity football build to make problems disappear through physical presence alone. His academic probation means nothing when Coach Turner needs him for the playoff run. Teachers pass him regardless of performance, knowing that questioning his grades means questioning the athletic program's funding. Reed Ashford handles psychological warfare with surgical precision. His 15,000 social media followers represent an army of teenagers who will destroy reputations on command. As class president, he maintains the perfect facade of student leadership while orchestrating campaigns that have forced 7 students to transfer schools in the past 3 years. His weapon of choice isn't violence, but social annihilation. Their track record speaks for itself. 0 defeats, perfect protection from consequences, and a system that shields them from accountability. They operate under the assumption that money, connections, and social status make them untouchable. The administration has buried 43 incident reports over the years, chalking up complaints to personality conflicts and adjustment issues, while the pack continues their reign of terror. Principal Davis knows exactly what happens in his hallways. He also knows that challenging the wrong families could cost him his job, his pension, and his reputation in educational circles. The pack's parents contribute 6-figure donations annually, volunteer for every fundraiser, and treat the school like their personal kingdom. Questioning their children's behavior means questioning the people who sign the checks. Coach Turner watches Jake Thornfield intimidate smaller students and says nothing. Winning championships requires keeping star players happy, and Jake's family has connections throughout the State Athletic Association. Teachers assign Reed Ashford leadership roles despite knowing his true nature. His mother serves on the hiring committee, and crossing him means facing professional consequences that extend far beyond Westfield's borders. The system protects them because the system needs them. Their money funds programs, their families provide connections, and their success reflects well on everyone involved. Lisa Stone represents the first student who has never shown fear, never sought their approval, and never acknowledged their authority. This anomaly threatens everything they've built, and anomalies must be eliminated. Blake approaches Lisa's table with practiced confidence, sliding into the seat across from her like they're old friends. He places 5 crisp $100 bills on the table, arranging them in a neat fan pattern that catches the fluorescent lighting. "I have a proposition for you, Lisa," he says, his voice carrying the easy authority of someone who has never heard the word no. $500 for the semester. All you have to do is help us with homework assignments. Lisa doesn't look up from her Caesar salad, continuing to eat with deliberate slowness. She counts 3 seconds of silence before responding with perfect calm. "I don't do other people's work." Her tone carries no hostility, no emotion, just a simple statement of fact that hits Blake like a physical blow. He's accustomed to gratitude, negotiation, or at least acknowledgement of his generosity. Jake tries the charm approach, leaning against the table with his most winning smile. "Look, we're not talking about cheating here," he says, gesturing toward Reed for support. "We're talking about study groups, collaboration, the kind of help that benefits everyone involved. Reed's having a party this weekend at his family's estate. Olympic-sized pool, catered food, all the right people." He pauses for effect, watching Lisa's face for signs of interest. "You could meet some important connections, people who could help your future." Lisa finally looks up, meeting Jake's eyes with a steady gaze that makes him shift uncomfortably. "I already know the right people," she says simply, then returns to her lunch as if the conversation has ended. The dismissal stings more than outright rejection would have. She's treating them like they're invisible, irrelevant to her world. Reed pulls out his iPhone Pro, showing Lisa pictures of designer clothes, expensive jewelry, and luxury vacations. His social media feed represents a lifestyle most teenagers can only dream about: private jets, five-star restaurants, exclusive events where celebrities mingle with trust fund kids. "You could have all this," he says, scrolling through images of Reed posing with various status symbols. "My family has connections everywhere: fashion, entertainment, politics." Lisa glances at the phone for exactly 2 seconds before returning to her salad. "I have what I need," she responds, her voice carrying a finality that shuts down further argument. Reed's face flushes red as he realizes she's genuinely unimpressed by displays of wealth that have intimidated dozens of students before her. This isn't strategic negotiation. She simply doesn't care about what they're offering. Blake retrieves his money with movements that betray growing irritation. No student at Westfield has ever rejected their offers so completely, so effortlessly. "You're making a mistake," he says, standing up with the theatrical authority of someone accustomed to having the last word. "At this school, you're either with us or against us. There's no middle ground." Lisa takes a sip of chocolate milk, still not looking at him. "I'm not against you," she says quietly. "I'm just not interested." The distinction carries weight that Blake doesn't fully understand yet. Being against them would require acknowledgement of their importance, while disinterest suggests they're beneath notice entirely. The systematic destruction of Lisa Stone's social standing begins with surgical precision. Reed Ashford orchestrates the campaign from his bedroom, surrounded by multiple monitors showing Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, and Facebook feeds. His followers represent an army of teenagers hungry for drama and validation. A single post from Reed can make or break reputations overnight. The first attack comes disguised as concern. Worried about Lisa Stone, heard she has serious anger management issues from her military background, Reed posts to his Instagram story, adding crying face emojis and hashtags about mental health awareness. Within hours, the narrative spreads through group chats and comment sections. Students begin avoiding Lisa not out of malice, but out of fear for their own safety. Fake screenshots appear showing Lisa supposedly bad-mouthing popular students. Reed's graphic design skills, honed through years of social media manipulation, create convincing conversations that never actually happened. The screenshots show Lisa calling cheerleaders basic airheads and football players brain-dead meatheads. Each fake message contains just enough believable detail to seem authentic while being inflammatory enough to generate outrage. The isolation campaign extends to physical spaces. Any student who sits with Lisa at lunch becomes a target for social media harassment, sudden exclusion from parties, and mysterious academic difficulties as teachers receive anonymous complaints about disruptive behavior. Kate Fletcher faces the most pressure, receiving dozens of messages warning her about Lisa's dangerous influence. Reed's followers flood her social media with comments questioning her judgment and loyalty to the school community. Table 7 in the cafeteria becomes a quarantine zone. Students who previously made casual conversation with Lisa now hurry past with awkward smiles and mumbled excuses. The few who try to maintain friendship find themselves photographed and tagged in posts questioning their association with the troubled military kid. Peer pressure proves more effective than any direct threat. Lisa watches the campaign unfold with professional detachment, recognizing psychological warfare tactics her father taught her to identify. She notes which students cave to social pressure immediately, which ones resist for a few days before succumbing, and which ones never believed the rumors in the first place. The exercise provides valuable intelligence about character and loyalty that will prove useful later. Kate Fletcher represents the final test of the isolation strategy. Reed approaches her directly at her locker, surrounded by enough witnesses to ensure the conversation becomes public knowledge. "We're concerned about you," he says with practiced sincerity, his voice carrying just enough volume to be overheard. "Lisa's behavior has been increasingly erratic, and we don't want you to get hurt when she inevitably snaps." Kate's response surprises everyone. "Lisa is my friend," she states firmly, closing her locker with enough force to make nearby students jump. "If you have problems with her, take them up with her directly instead of spreading gossip like middle schoolers." She walks away before Reed can respond, leaving him standing in the hallway with his mouth open and his carefully planned manipulation in shambles. Library study room C14 becomes the setting for direct confrontation at exactly 3:47 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon. Blake Hartwell enters first, his footsteps echoing in the small space as Lisa looks up from her advanced placement history textbook. Jake Thornfield blocks the doorway with his massive frame, while Reed Ashford positions himself near the window with his phone already recording. Blake slams his palm against the table, causing Lisa's pen to jump and several nearby students to look up from their studying. The sound reverberates through the quiet library like a gunshot. "You think you're special?" he demands, his voice carrying 3 years of unchallenged authority. "Nobody ignores us at this school. Nobody." Lisa maintains eye contact without flinching, her hands remaining perfectly still on either side of her textbook. She's memorized the dimensions of the room, cataloged potential weapons within reach, and calculated 3 different escape routes before Blake finished his first sentence. "I'm not ignoring you," she responds calmly, her voice carrying no trace of fear or aggression. "I'm studying you." The words hit Blake like a physical blow. Being studied implies being analyzed, cataloged, reduced to predictable patterns of behavior. Jake shifts nervously in the doorway, suddenly aware that Lisa's calm demeanor doesn't match her reputation for having anger management issues. If she's as unstable as Reed claimed, shouldn't she be shouting or crying by now? Reed continues filming while Blake leans across the table, bringing his face close to Lisa's. "Let me make this crystal clear," he says, his breath carrying the scent of expensive cologne and barely controlled rage. "Parking lot handicap, spot number 3. That's where you park your beat-up Honda every morning. Hallway by the chemistry lab. That's your route to 3rd period. This table, your precious quiet spot where you pretend to be invisible." Lisa absorbs each piece of information without reaction, recognizing it as amateur intimidation compared to psychological pressure techniques her father taught her to resist. Blake thinks he's demonstrating superior intelligence gathering, but he's actually revealing how much mental energy the pack wastes on surveillance. "Between 2nd and 3rd period," Blake continues, "right after lunch, before school starts, we know your schedule better than you do. 20 students occupy nearby tables, all pretending to focus on their homework while straining to hear every word. Not one of them makes eye contact with Lisa or shows any inclination to intervene. The pack's reputation for destroying anyone who interferes has created a culture of willful blindness. Witnesses see nothing, hear nothing, and report nothing. You have 48 hours to reconsider our generous offers," Jake adds from the doorway, his voice carrying the weight of physical threat without explicitly crossing legal lines. After that, things become much more difficult for quiet girls who think they're too good for Westfield social structures. Lisa closes her textbook with deliberate precision, organizing her materials with the same calm efficiency she's maintained throughout the confrontation. She stands up slowly, shouldering her backpack while maintaining eye contact with all three boys. "I understand your position perfectly," she says, her voice carrying a note of finality that makes Reed's phone hand tremble slightly. As she walks toward the door, Jake doesn't move aside immediately. For 3 seconds, they stand facing each other in the narrow doorway, her 5'6" frame dwarfed by his imposing bulk. Lisa doesn't look intimidated. She looks calculating, as if she's measuring distances and angles for reasons Jake can't comprehend. Finally, he steps aside with visible reluctance. "This isn't over," Blake calls after her, but Lisa doesn't acknowledge the statement. She walks through the library with measured steps, nodding politely to the librarian before disappearing into the hallway. Behind her, 3 members of the Westfield pack stare at each other in confusion. Nothing about this encounter went according to their carefully rehearsed script. The next morning brings escalation that crosses every line Blake Hartwell thought he understood. Lisa arrives at school to find her Honda Civic surrounded by yellow caution tape, the kind used at crime scenes. A handwritten note tucked under her windshield wiper reads, "Accident waiting to happen, just like you." 3 students film her reaction from across the parking lot, their phones capturing every moment for Reed's social media army. Lisa examines the scene with professional detachment, noting the tape's placement, the angle of the cameras, and the timing of the harassment. Blake wants footage of her losing control, breaking down, or showing fear that can be weaponized across multiple platforms. Instead, she simply removes the tape with methodical precision, folds it neatly, and places it in her backpack before driving to her usual parking spot. During first period American literature, Jake Thornfield enters the classroom 15 minutes late with a hall pass signed by Coach Turner. He takes the empty seat directly behind Lisa, close enough that she can smell his cologne and hear his deliberate breathing. Every few minutes, he kicks the back of her chair, not hard enough to be obvious, but consistent enough to be maddening for anyone lacking military discipline training. "Miss Stone," Mrs. Henderson calls out during discussion of themes in To Kill a Mockingbird. "What do you think Harper Lee was trying to say about courage and standing up to bullies?" The timing feels too convenient to be coincidental. Lisa recognizes a setup designed to force her into making statements that can be taken out of context later. True courage requires understanding the difference between necessary action and pointless aggression, Lisa responds, her voice steady despite Jake's continued harassment. "Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is wait for the right moment, instead of reacting emotionally." Her answer draws approving nods from several classmates, while Jake's face flushes red behind her. By lunch period, the psychological pressure reaches fever pitch. Lisa enters the cafeteria to find table 7 occupied by 3 freshmen who scatter the moment they see her approaching. A piece of paper taped to the table surface reads, "Reserved for psychos and future school shooters." The handwriting matches samples from Reed's previous harassment campaigns. Lisa removes the sign and sits down anyway, unpacking her usual Caesar salad and chocolate milk with routine precision. She's aware of dozens of eyes watching her every movement, phones recording her reactions, and whispered conversations speculating about when she'll finally snap. The atmosphere crackles with anticipation. Everyone knows something explosive is building, but nobody wants to be caught in the blast radius. I'm genuinely curious about the moment Lisa realized her true strength. Have you ever had a moment where you suddenly understood your real capabilities, especially when pushed to your absolute limit? Share your story in the comments, because what's about to happen will show why Lisa never needs to be afraid again. At exactly 12:47 p.m., Lisa sits at table 7 near the salad bar, methodically eating her lunch while monitoring the cafeteria's rhythms. She notes that the ice machine cycles every 30 seconds, that most students finish eating within 12 minutes of sitting down, and that the nearest emergency exit lies 43 steps from her current position. These observations aren't paranoid. They're tactical preparation for a confrontation she knows is coming. Blake Hartwell approaches with his trademark confidence, flanked by Jake and Reed in their usual triangle formation. Other students sense the tension and begin clearing nearby tables, creating an impromptu arena around Lisa's position. The cafeteria's normal chatter diminishes to whispers as phones emerge from pockets and backpacks. Everyone wants footage of whatever happens next. "Last chance, military brat," Blake announces, his voice carrying across the dining area with theatrical authority. "You can apologize publicly, transfer to another school quietly, or learn why nobody crosses the Westfield pack." He places both hands on the table, leaning forward until his face hovers inches from Lisa's. The gesture is designed to force her to look up at him, acknowledging his dominance through body language. Lisa continues eating her salad without looking up, chewing slowly, as if Blake's proximity means nothing. This calm defiance infuriates him more than shouting or tears would have. "I'm talking to you," he shouts, slamming his palm against the table hard enough to make her milk carton jump. The sound echoes through the now silent cafeteria like a gunshot. Jake moves to Lisa's right side while Reed circles to her left, boxing her in with their combined presence. The formation is designed to trigger claustrophobia and panic in their target. Lisa finally looks up, meeting Blake's eyes with a steadiness that makes him unconsciously step back. There's no fear in her gaze, no submission, only the cold calculation of someone making final tactical assessments. "You think you're tough because your daddy taught you to march around and follow orders?" Reed taunts, his phone camera capturing every moment. "This isn't some military base where everyone has to respect your precious discipline." Several students laugh nervously, unsure whether they're watching entertainment or witnessing the prelude to tragedy. Lisa sets down her plastic fork and reaches for her chocolate milk, taking a slow sip while the three boys loom over her. The casual gesture drives Blake past his breaking point. He reaches out to grab her shoulder, intending to force her to stand and face him properly. This physical contact crosses the legal line from harassment into assault, giving Lisa the justification she's been waiting for. What happens next unfolds in exactly 8 seconds, from 12:47 and 23 seconds to 12:47 and 31 seconds. Blake's hand makes contact with Lisa's left shoulder, and she responds with movements so fluid they seem choreographed. Her right hand grabs the red plastic cafeteria tray, using it as a lever to redirect Blake's momentum, while her left elbow drives into his solar plexus with surgical precision. Jake lunges forward to help his leader, but Lisa has already anticipated this response. She pivots in her chair, using Reed's $1,500 Gucci backpack as an anchor point to sweep Blake's legs, while simultaneously redirecting Jake's charge into Reed's position. The collision sends all three boys sprawling across the cafeteria floor in a tangle of limbs and designer clothing. The most remarkable aspect of the entire sequence is that Lisa never stands up from her seat. She handles 3 attackers while remaining calmly positioned at table 7, her chocolate milk barely disturbed by the violence. Spilled food creates slip hazards that send Jake scrambling for purchase on the polished floor, while Blake clutches his dislocated shoulder and Reed tries to protect his expensive electronics from the spreading puddle of cafeteria soup. Silence blankets the dining area, except for the mechanical hum of the ice machine and the scattered groans of the Westfield pack. 200 students stare in stunned disbelief at the quiet girl who just dismantled 3 upperclassmen without breaking a sweat. Lisa calmly picks up her plastic fork and continues eating her Caesar salad as if nothing happened. Principal Davis arrives within 90 seconds, followed by Coach Turner, the school nurse, and 2 security guards. They find Blake Hartwell cradling his shoulder while paramedics check Jake Thornfield for concussion symptoms. Reed Ashford sits on the floor, clutching his ribs and staring at his cracked phone screen in disbelief. The video he intended to capture shows his own humiliation instead of Lisa's breakdown. "Miss Stone," Principal Davis says carefully, approaching table 7 like he's negotiating with a dangerous animal, "we need to discuss what happened here." His voice carries none of the authority he typically uses with students. The casual efficiency with which Lisa handled 3 larger opponents has fundamentally shifted the power dynamic. Lisa looks up from her salad with polite attention. "3 students physically assaulted me while I was eating lunch," she states matter-of-factly. "I defended myself using minimal necessary force to neutralize the threat. Everything is captured on multiple phones if you need video evidence." Her clinical description of events sounds more like a police report than a teenager's emotional outburst. Within hours, the incident triggers investigations that reveal the PAC's 3-year reign of terror. 43 incident reports that were supposedly lost suddenly resurface from backup servers, detailing systematic harassment campaigns against dozens of students. Parents who were told their children had behavioral problems learn that their complaints were deliberately buried by an administration more concerned with donor relations than student safety. The financial irregularities take longer to surface, but Lisa's father's military contacts include people with expertise in forensic accounting. Colonel Ben Stone makes a single phone call that sets federal investigators on the trail of $127,000 in consulting fees paid to shell companies owned by Principal Davis's brother-in-law. The money was supposed to fund anti-bullying programs that never actually existed. FBI Special Agent Sarah Mitchell arrives on Thursday morning with a briefcase full of evidence and a warrant to search school financial records. Case number 2024-CF-891 represents 3 years of investigation into educational fraud schemes across multiple private schools. Lisa's incident provided the final piece of evidence needed to move forward with arrests. By Friday afternoon, Blake Hartwell faces assault charges and a civil rights lawsuit. His father's position on the school board becomes a liability rather than protection when federal prosecutors start asking questions about oversight failures. Jake Thornfield's athletic scholarship opportunities evaporate as colleges receive documentation of his role in systematic harassment campaigns, while Reed Ashford watches his social media empire collapse as his followers abandon him in droves. The personal cost of victory becomes clear over the following week. Lisa must transfer to a new school district for her own protection, as the PAC's remaining allies make increasingly desperate threats. Kate Fletcher tearfully admits she can't handle the truth about Lisa's background and training. Their friendship becomes another casualty of a conflict Lisa never wanted to fight. Colonel Stone receives new orders within 72 hours of the cafeteria incident. The family will relocate to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, where Lisa can finish her senior year at a school with stronger security protocols. The sudden move means leaving behind the few positive relationships she's managed to build at Westfield, trading familiar surroundings for another round of careful identity management. Violence is always costly, even when it's justified, her father explains, while they pack boxes in their base housing. You did everything right, but doing right doesn't always lead to easy outcomes. Lisa understands the lesson. Protecting others sometimes requires sacrificing your own comfort and stability. The media attention proves more challenging than the physical confrontation. Local news stations want interviews about the military daughter who fought back, while social media influencers try to turn her story into viral content about girl power and self-defense. Lisa refuses all interviews, understanding that publicity compromises operational security for reasons she can't explain to civilian reporters. Her final day at Westfield brings unexpected support from students who were too afraid to speak up during the pack's reign. 17 different people approach her to share stories of harassment they endured and express gratitude for someone finally taking action. The validation feels hollow given the price she's paying, but Lisa recognizes the importance of their courage in speaking truth. 3 weeks later, Sarah Blackwell transfers into Westfield Preparatory Academy as a junior from a boarding school in Vermont. She chooses table 12 in the cafeteria, positioning herself with clear sight lines to all entrances while keeping her back to the wall. Her phone case bears the same military-grade protection rating as Lisa's, and her left hand shows an identical scar from what school records describe as a childhood accident. The new girl exhibits the same behavioral patterns Lisa displayed during her first weeks at Westfield. Scanning exits before sitting down, counting people within tactical distance, and maintaining hyper-awareness of her surroundings. When approached by students seeking friendship, she responds with polite but distant courtesy that discourages further contact. Principal Davis, newly installed after his predecessor's arrest, notices Sarah's quiet competence and exceptional situational awareness. Something about her presence feels familiar, though he can't identify why. Her academic records show straight A's across multiple subjects, with particular strength in languages and international studies, subjects that suggest broader horizons than typical teenage interests. Sarah's enrollment paperwork lists her father as Lieutenant Colonel James Blackwell, currently stationed at Fort Benning, Georgia. A routine background check reveals his assignment to specialized training programs without additional details. The coincidence of another military daughter arriving so soon after Lisa's departure strikes several teachers as noteworthy, but none of them understand the significance. During her first week, Sarah demonstrates the same immunity to social pressure that made Lisa such an anomaly. When approached by the remaining members of various cliques seeking to recruit or intimidate her, she responds with the same calm disinterest that frustrated the pack. Her behavioral patterns suggest training that extends far beyond normal military family discipline. Colonel Ben Stone's encrypted phone chimes at exactly 11:37 p.m. while he's reviewing Lisa's new school enrollment paperwork. The message appears as random characters to anyone without proper decryption protocols, but Ben recognizes the signature immediately. His daughter is upstairs finishing homework, unaware that her father's career involves more than conventional military training. The decoded message reads, "Package delivered successfully. Chicago assignment confirmed for September deployment. Target demographic 16 to 18 years. Specialized skills required for urban environment integration." Ben deletes the message automatically after reading, but the implications weigh heavily on his mind as he considers Lisa's future. Project Athens represents a classified program spanning multiple military installations. Children of selected personnel receive advanced training in situational awareness, threat assessment, and civilian integration techniques. The official purpose involves preparing military families for overseas assignments in hostile environments, but the scope extends far beyond cultural adaptation. Lisa represents the program's newest success story. Her ability to maintain cover identity while neutralizing legitimate threats proves that years of specialized training produce operationally effective results. The Westfield incident provided valuable data about performance under stress and civilian authority response patterns that will inform future training protocols. Her next assignment requires integration into Chicago's diverse urban environment, where different threats and opportunities will test skills developed in suburban Connecticut settings. The target school serves a much broader socioeconomic range, presenting challenges that prep school experience couldn't provide. Lisa's cover story will involve her father's reassignment to Great Lakes Naval Station. The final piece of Sarah Blackwell's integration occurs during her third week at Westfield, when she inadvertently demonstrates advanced situational awareness during a minor crisis. When a visiting parent suffers an apparent heart attack in the main lobby, Sarah immediately begins CPR while directing other students to specific tasks with calm authority that suggests emergency response training far beyond standard first aid certification. Principal Davis watches the 17-year-old girl coordinate medical response with professional efficiency, noting her systematic approach to crowd control and her instinctive positioning to maintain clear access routes for paramedics. Something about her competence feels too polished for a typical teenager, even one from a military background. After the ambulance departs and normal school operations resume, Davis approaches Sarah with questions about her emergency response training. She provides vague answers about family preparedness programs and basic safety courses, while deflecting inquiry into specific certifications or instructor credentials. Her evasiveness feels practiced rather than natural. That evening, Davis makes discreet inquiries about unusual student enrollment patterns across other private schools in the region. 3 separate institutions report similar arrivals of military dependents with exceptional academic records and mysterious behavioral competencies. The pattern suggests coordination that extends beyond normal military family transfers. Lisa Stone stands in her new bedroom at Fort Bragg, unpacking boxes while her secure phone displays an encrypted message from her handler. Chicago integration begins Monday. Cover identity as transfer student from North Carolina military family. Specialized urban training modules commence immediately. She deletes the message and continues organizing her belongings with the same methodical precision that served her well at Westfield. The window overlooks a training facility where tomorrow she'll begin preparation for environments more complex than suburban prep schools. Chicago presents challenges involving gang territories, economic disparities, and cultural dynamics that require different skills than those needed to handle privileged bullies. The Athens protocol adapts its training to match specific operational requirements. Her father knocks on the doorframe, holding 2 cups of hot chocolate. "Ready for the next chapter?" he asks, settling into the chair beside her desk. They've had this conversation dozens of times over the years. New assignment, new identity, new challenges that test skills most teenagers never imagine needing. "The pack taught me something important," Lisa reflects, accepting the warm mug. "Sometimes quiet people aren't hiding from the world. They're protecting it." Colonel Stone nods with pride, recognizing that his daughter has internalized the deeper purpose behind years of specialized training that few people will ever understand. Outside her window, other military families prepare for their own assignments across the globe. Some involve conventional deployments to established bases, while others disappear into cover identities that serve purposes classified far above Lisa's current clearance level. The Athens Protocol represents just one program among dozens designed to meet threats that civilian authorities couldn't recognize or counter effectively. Tomorrow begins new training, new challenges, and new opportunities to serve a mission larger than personal ambition. Lisa Stone closes her eyes and imagines the Chicago skyline, wondering what quiet corners will need protection from predators who mistake silence for weakness. Her secured tablet chimes with an encrypted file containing detailed intelligence about Lincoln Park High School. 2,300 students from 47 different countries create a complex social ecosystem where traditional power structures shift constantly based on factors far more nuanced than family wealth or athletic ability. Gang affiliations, immigration status, academic tracking, and cultural tensions intersect in ways that make Westfield's privileged hierarchy look simplistic by comparison. The preliminary assessment identifies 3 potential threats requiring monitoring. Marcus Rivera, whose older brother's gang connections give him influence over freshman recruitment. Jessica Chen, who uses academic excellence as a weapon to destroy competitors through strategic sabotage. And David Thompson, whose father's police connections provide protection for increasingly aggressive behavior toward vulnerable classmates. Each represents a different type of predator requiring tailored countermeasures. Lisa studies photographs of the school's layout, noting choke points, surveillance gaps, and areas where isolated students might face harassment without intervention. The cafeteria spans 2 levels, connected by a central staircase that creates natural territorial divisions, while the library's maze of study carrels provides countless opportunities for private intimidation. Understanding geography means understanding opportunity. Her training schedule includes urban camouflage techniques, multicultural communication strategies, and advanced conflict de-escalation methods designed for environments where violence carries different consequences than suburban prep school altercations. Chicago's streets teach lessons that Connecticut boarding schools never imagine, and Lisa must adapt accordingly. Colonel Stone appears in her doorway, holding mission orders that will take him to classified locations while she integrates into civilian life. Their separation represents part of the protocol's broader strategy of creating independent operatives capable of functioning without direct supervision. Trust requires distance, and distance builds strength that proximity cannot teach. 3 time zones away, Sarah Blackwell completes her own evening training routine, preparing for challenges that mirror Lisa's experience while serving entirely different operational requirements. Across the country, dozens of Athens Protocol graduates maintain their quiet watch over communities that never suspect their protection comes from teenagers who learned that some battles require fighting in shadows rather than spotlight.